Welcome back, everybody. I know it's been a little bit since I did a video, but my primary job has been keeping me very busy, and I wanted to sit down and concentrate on an area that I truly love, I have a lot of passion about, and a good bit of knowledge, and that is football. And that's all three factions of football. And what I mean by factions, it's high school to college to the pros in the NFL. This video is going to concentrate on high school football in Georgia. We're looking at Friday Night Lights. I scoured through the entire Georgia high school schedule of all 400 and something schools, and I picked out the games that I would like to go to. Now, I'm up in the Northwest Georgia corner, so I can't make it to all of them, especially all of that great football in South Georgia. That's a good 5.5, almost 6 hour drive for me to get down to Savannah or Valdosta. But everyone that lives down there, man, you've got some great football. Even with coming up a little bit to the state fair where Perry's at, their team won a state championship last year. So everyone down there, enjoy that football. We're lucky too. There's a lot of good football up here in North Georgia and around the Atlanta area. Georgia high school football starts in 2 weeks. Yes, who is ready? I'm so ready for some football. But it starts October the 16th. It goes all the way to November the 1st. And I picked a game every single Friday. And then there's a few weeks where I picked an extra game, and I will go over those. But let's get this started. Friday night football in Georgia. The first game that I picked, August 16th, is one dominant program to a new blue blood of Georgia football. We have the Buford Wolves versus the Milton Eagles. So for each game, I'm going to start off with the visiting team, and then I'll end with the home team. So for this game, we got the Buford Wolves, who have 12 titles since 2002. That's only 22 years they have won, almost more than half the time they have won a title. We all know that Buford is a powerhouse, but over the past few reclassifications, they kept moving up in class, and over the last 2-3 years, they moved all the way up to 7A. It's the highest class in Georgia, but Georgia decided to reclassify once again, and now 6A is the highest class, and that's where Buford's going to fall this year. They have 12 players ranked in Georgia's 188 recruits per 247 Sports. There's 415 high schools with football players, and they have 12 in the top 188. That tells you what kind of program Buford has become. And I'll only talk about the seniors that are being recruited in that top 188, that 247 list for the state of Georgia. So let's talk about some of their stars that they have. The 13th ranked player in the state of Georgia is Jadon Perlotte. He's a linebacker committed to the University of Georgia. At 16, you have Braden Jacobs, offensive tackle. He's committed to Clemson. At 21, you have Devin Williams, a cornerback that's going to Auburn. At 54, you have Mantrez Walker, another linebacker, but he's going to Colorado to play with Dion. And then 79, you got Justin Baker. He's the running back that's going to play for Tennessee. At 80, you have Jordan Allen. He's a wide receiver at Louisville. They have 6 players in the top 100. They also have A.J. Holloway, Chris Garland, Kenyon Rivera, Hayden Bradley, Nico Maggio, and Ethan Irvin that is ranked from 100 to 188. That is 12 kids, like I said earlier, that are ranked in the top 188 players in the state of Georgia. It's unreal what Buford has built. Moving on to the home team, you have the 7A defending champions, Milton. They actually beat Walton last year, 31-21, and I did a video on all the championship games, and I actually thought Walton would win that game. So Milton came out and surprised me on that. But now that 7A has been eliminated as a classification, Milton is actually going to be falling back to 5A. They're not actually going to stay in the higher class. They're going to be a 5A team this year. And they're another high school with ton of high recruits. They have 7 of the top 100 and 9 total in the top 188. So their recruits are number 18, Ethan Barber. He is a tight end that's going to Georgia. 31, we have CJ Wiley, a wide receiver going to Florida State. 36, we have Luke Nickel, who is a quarterback going to the University of Miami, going to the U. At 48, you have Ryan Gia. He's another tight end, and he's going to Auburn. 61, Tyler Redmond, a cornerback going to Tennessee. 64, we have Caleb Bell, a defensive lineman going to Arkansas. And at 82, we have Dylan Lewis, who is another cornerback heading to Tennessee. And then, and I hope I say this, I guess it's Micah Jones and Caleb Ellis, also ranked from that 100 and above. Another team. So both of these teams are loaded with tons of talent. So that is one of the main reasons I picked this game. Luke Nickel is returning, and he will try to help Milton win another championship, and he's committed to Miami. And both teams, they have a good balance of recruits on the offensive and decent defensive side of the football. So if you get a chance, this would be one of the main games to go to. I pulled some of the rankings from Max Prep. They do a preseason top 100 for the whole nation. Max Preps has Milton ranked 6th. That's 6th in the nation. And they have Buford at 21st. This game will have a top 20 matchup nationally in the first week of the season. Not only does Milton start the season playing the 21st team in the nation, Buford, they are also going to play American Heritage out of Plantation, Florida, and they're ranked 20th in the nation per Max Preps. Milton's going to have a tough early schedule. I mean, that's September 13th. In their first month, they're having 2 top 21 matchups to play. Impressive. So head up 30 miles north of Atlanta to Milton, Georgia, and watch the Eagles host the Wolves. We're actually going to remain on the opening weekend of high school football. The Corky Kell Classic is being held at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and the last game on Saturday night will have the Cedar Grove Saints versus the Douglas County Tigers, which should be a great game. Cedar Grove is your 3A defending champions. They actually kind of stomped Savannah Christian in the championship game last year with a 49-28 score. They have 5 state titles from 2016, and they even lost the 2022 championship. But this first game could be the stepping stone for their 4th straight championship game or their 6th championship game in 7 years. They're only a Class 3A team, but they have 2 good recruits coming out of Cedar Grove. You have the 65th recruit is Bo Walker. He is a running back going to Georgia. And then you have at 164 Andrew Leslie. He's a wide receiver going to Memphis. Moving on to the Tigers of Douglas County. They had such a tough loss last year in the semis to Woodward Academy. They lost 24-21 in that game. It was actually their only loss of the season. Woodward would go on to lose the state title to Thomas County Central, but Douglas has a very solid team coming back this year. They're ranked 43rd in the nation by Max Preps, 5th in the state. This team is loaded with talent. They only have 1 top recruit in the state at 114th, Michael Hasty. He is an edge that's going to West Virginia. But don't let that fool you. This team is very talented across the board. It doesn't take a lot of high recruits to have a good football team, and Douglas County has one. They're also in Class 6A. That's the toughest class in the state, but be on the watch for them. I know you got Buford up there and Carrollton and a lot of other really good 6A teams, but Douglas is going to be up there fighting for that championship as well. Head over to MBS, watch a few games before the top matchup on Saturday night, and enjoy some good high school football. Heading to the next week, August 23rd, we'll have the Mill Creek Hawks versus the Norcross Blue Devils. Not all of my picks are 6A class, not the highest class. There's just some really good matchups early. Let's discuss the Mill Creek Hawks. They won a 7A title in 2022. It's actually their only state title. Max Preps actually had them the 63rd ranked team in the entire nation. They're only ranked 9th in Class 6A this year. They have two highly regarded recruits. Number 67 in the state, Luke Metz, a linebacker going to the University of Alabama. And then they have 126 Devin Ankrum, a defensive lineman going to North Carolina. Now, their offense is pretty balanced. They run just a tad more than they pass. But they're also returning their quarterback that had a great season last year, Shane Throgmartin. He threw for 22 touchdowns and only had 7 interceptions with 1,945 yards. A very good season for high school football. Moving over to the host team, you have the Norcross Blue Devils. And they are actually looking to avenge a 27-13 loss to Mill Creek last year. They actually have 7 offensive and 8 defensive players returning this year. Even though they don't have any top recruits, this is a well-coached team, and the reason I am saying that is because the Atlanta Falcons Coach of the Year for 2023 was their coach, Keith Maloff, and I'm actually going to include a YouTube video of Lorenzo Carter, who went to Norcross and played for Maloff. He went and gave him the honor of the Coach of the Year from the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons do this every year. I think it's really cool. He actually has won 2 titles at Norcross. He won in 2012 and 2013. Last year, he became the winningest coach in Gwinnett County, which says a lot considering how many great schools are in that county. And that was only just one of the many reasons that he won the Coach of the Year. Go watch the video. He has some great things to say. It's not about always football, but instilling good morals in these kid athletes and focusing on their education. Head up on the 23rd to 5300 Spalding Drive and watch the 13th ranked Blue Devils take on the number 9 Hawks. Who would like to watch an NFL Hall of Famer son play? Well, I have the game for you. August 30th, it will be time to head out to College Park for a War Eagle battle of Marist versus Woodward Academy. We'll begin the discussion with the Marist War Eagles. After the reclassification, they're moving down to 4A, and their currently preseason rank for 4A is number 7. They're the 7th ranked team in that class. Marist actually beat Woodward last year 17-10 in overtime. So they'll be looking to repeat that success in this ball game. The one other thing I'd like to talk about on the history of Marist is their head coach, Alan Chadwick, has been the head coach since 1985. He has produced all 3 state champions, 1989, 2003, and as recent as 2020. Now, I did say he has lost some, but he's only lost 4. Before that, they had lost 5 championship games. And now that the classifications have been kind of cramped back up, this class 4A, man, it's going to be interesting. There's a lot of strong teams, but I think Marist will be in there to give them a fight and try to win a championship. Moving over to the Woodward Academy War Eagles, they actually lost the 6A championship to Thomas County Central last year. They're actually hoping to bounce back from a tough loss They are actually moving from 6A to 5A, and after they lost their game to Maris last year, they did not lose a game until the championship game. And like I said before, what you're looking for is a 72 recruit, Jerome Bettis Jr. He's actually listed as a wide receiver, and he's following his dad's footsteps to go to Notre Dame. They also have another top wide receiver, number 74, Josiah Abdullah, and he's undecided. He hadn't picked a school yet. They're going to be in another tough class, especially with Milton moving down to 5A, and they're going to be there with Thomas County Central and Coffee and Lee County, Rome, Gainesville. Every class is loaded because there's so much great football in Georgia. Head out to Madison Street in College Park and watch that War Eagle battle between two really good high school football programs. I think I just heard someone say they wanted more football that weekend. Well, I've got a game for you. Let's take a little road trip just southwest of Atlanta. Let's head just south of Dallas, Texas. That's right, Dallas, Texas, not Dallas, Georgia, on August the 31st to watch the Creekside Seminoles out of Fairburn, Georgia, take on the DeSoto Eagles of DeSoto, Texas. The Seminoles of Creekside, they have no fear of playing anybody in the nation. Last year, they went to St. Peter's Prep out of New Jersey City, New Jersey. They won that game. And then they went to Mater Dei in Santa Ana, California, which is one of the biggest high school programs in the country. The Monarchs of Mater Dei are the preseason number one team in the country. And Creekside has no issues playing anyone. Outside of going to play DeSoto, they're actually going to Anderson, South Carolina to play the Rams of Westside. This team, it's great to see this. I really enjoy watching a high school team go outside the state to play another good football team. For Creekside, they only have one top recruit in the state. That's 147 Dylan Vickerson. He is a wide receiver, and he is undecided at the moment. Creekside actually lost the Class 5A championship to Coffee last year. So this is a very good football team. They're definitely returning a lot of their good players. And they're currently ranked number 6 preseason-wise in Class 4A. So they're actually going down like a lot of other teams. They're moving from 5A to 4A. Let's talk about the DeSoto Eagles. They are the 6A District 2 state champs, so they are the defending champions. And they won their championship game 74-14. Yes, they won their championship game by 60 points. They are the 5th ranked team in the country. Like I said earlier, Creekside is not scared of anyone. And look at the recruits in the state of Texas that this team has. They have the 38th ranked DeAndre Rodden, a running back that is committed to Texas A&M. They have the 45th ranked Daylon Singleton, a wide receiver going to SMU. They have the 161st Keldon Ryan, which is their quarterback. He's going to Virginia Tech, or committed, I should say. The 175th ranked kid, I think it's Sal Reyes. He's the safety, and he's committed to SMU. And then at 196, they have Keelan Abrams. He's a linebacker that is committed to TCU. This team is loaded. That's why they're the 5th ranked team in the country. So just think, Creekside played Mater Dei last year. Now they're going to go play DeSoto, Texas. Lots of fun. I know that's quite the trip. I think it would be fun to take a road trip out and support one of our good Georgia high school teams and watch them play a very talented team out of Texas. Moving on to next week, from the school I graduated with to another family's hometown in region rivals and 2 storied programs. On September the 6th, Class 4A 3A matchup, we have the Carsville Purple Hurricanes travel to Calhoun to take on the Yellow Jackets. Both schools have 4 titles, ranging from the first one, the one I got to experience in 1991 with Cartersville, up to 2018 is when both schools have won their 4 championships. Actually, they both won 2 between 2014 and 2018. We'll discuss Cartersville first. They've had some great runs in the playoffs. We've actually lost the last 2 championship games we've been in up until that point. We had won all 4 championships that we played. Hopefully, we can turn that around this year. And I'm super excited about this team. I always am about my alma mater, but this year should be a lot of fun, just like any other. God, I love small town football. I can't wait to go to this game. I will definitely be going to this. They actually have 2 kids that are highly recruited this year. Number 100, Jamari Bryce. He's listed as an athlete and he's committed to Georgia Tech. And then at 102, we have Jordan Woods. He's a cornerback that has committed to Cincinnati. Moving over to Calhoun, I actually have a niece that graduated there recently in the past few years. They're actually moving down to 3A. Cartersville is going to 4A. They've been in the same class probably for about maybe 4 years, I think. They've been in the same class, but now they're going to be in 2 separate classes. But that doesn't mean it's going to change how good of a game this will be. They've recently played in the past 2 years. They've split both games, and they've both been very close. Calhoun actually got a big upset 2 years ago. But, man, it should be a great game. Calhoun has an incredible tight end, Emory Winston. He is committed to Texas. This kid is freaking huge, too. I can't wait for this game. I don't want to get too homer-like on these 2 schools because I know them so well. I've been to so many games over the past 20 years, but I'm always excited to go to this game. It's in Calhoun this year, so if you get a chance, come up to Calhoun and watch a great rivalry, great hometown support for both teams. So go Canes, go Jackets. We'll see you there. Moving on to the next week, September 13th, we have a star quarterback taking on the Red Elephants. Both have a preseason top 10 rank in their respectful class. We have Gainesville versus Carrollton. We'll discuss the visitor first. That's the Gainesville Red Elephants. They have a successful coach, Josh Neblett. He was from Hoover, Alabama. That's where he coached at before. They are currently ranked 6th in 5A in the preseason and 83rd in the nation. But they're going to have a very tough task against Juju. Last year when I was predicting the semifinal games, I had actually picked Gainesville to win the 6A. But they fell just short of the championship game against Woodward Academy. And then Woodward Academy actually ended up getting beat by Thomas County Central. I expect them to make another deep run this year. They're a very talented team, and like I said before, they have a very talented coach that had a lot of success in Hoover, Alabama. So expect them to play well and make it pretty deep in the playoffs again. They have 2 top Georgia recruits. Number 15, Alex Payne. He's an offensive tackle heading to the University of North Carolina, UNC. Then they have 128, Julius Columbus. He is a defensive lineman, and he is committed to Duke. Moving over to the hosting team, the Carrollton Trojans. Oh, man, they are loaded. They have one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. Quarterback Julian Lewis. He is committed to USC. He's actually 8th in the state, and he's 15th in the nation. And Julian will have help from their head coach, Joey King, who was actually at the helm at Cartersville when Trevor Lawrence was there, and when they had such a great run, when they won 2 state titles, could have won possibly 3 or 4, fell a little short a couple of times, but he was instrumental to some of Trevor's development. So Julius received that same good guidance that Trevor had received. Julian was actually classified as a sophomore last year. He's been reclassified as a senior, so I'm sure Carrollton really would like to make their run this year, and he has plenty of weapons. They also have 3 other high recruits. Number 71, Shamar Arnaud. He is a cornerback, also committed to USC. 112, they have Zion Cooley. He's a defensive end for East Carolina. And then they also have 183, Kai Callan. He is an athlete committed to James Madison. head over just a little east of Atlanta to Carrollton, Georgia. It's a beautiful stadium that the Trojans have. I actually went 2 years ago to watch Rome play Carrollton and watch the highly recruited quarterback take another step to winning a championship for Carrollton. Moving on to the 20th of September, I actually have a double dipper on this Friday night. I have one game that you can go to in South Carolina, and I have one game in Northwest Georgia. First, we have Prince Avenue Christian traveling to Anderson, South Carolina to take on the West Side Rams. As always, we'll talk a little bit about the visiting team first. You have the Prince Avenue Christian Wolverines, who are the defending Class 1A Division champion for Georgia. They have actually won 3 titles in the past 4 years. Check this stat out. Coach Vandegrift is 97-12 since taking over for Prince Avenue, and he is 54-4 in the last 4 years during their multiple championship runs. Unbelievable. That's like Saban type numbers throughout a few of his 4 years, or even Kirby over the past 4 years. The one thing I've mentioned this several times, I love when teams go out of state and play other high schools. The Wolverines actually hosted Nashville Christian last year, and they also traveled to Columbia, South Carolina to play Hammond Skyhawks. This year, they're going to host Mallard Creek from Charlotte, and of course, they're going out to Anderson, South Carolina to take on the West Side Rams. They only have one recruit, and that's still pretty important. This is a school, they're actually going to move up in class. They're one of the few that's moving up. They're going from 1A to 2A. They have the 28th ranked recruit in Georgia, Christian Garrett. He's a defensive lineman going to the Dogs, University of Georgia. Just because they only have one recruit doesn't mean that they're a talented football team. They wouldn't have won so many games and so many championships over the last few years. Moving over to the host team, the Rams of Westside. They are the defending champions of the 4A class in South Carolina, and they're led by a highly recruited quarterback, Cutter Woods, who is committed to South Carolina. He's actually the 13th ranked recruit in South Carolina. The interesting thing is Creekside, who I mentioned before, going to DeSoto, Texas. Westside's actually going to go play Creekside as well. So along with Prince Avenue, Creekside's going to have 2 out-of-state games. Westside is a pretty loaded team. They have 3 of the top 13 recruits in South Carolina. Number 8, Armani Weaver. He's a cornerback, and he's going to Appalachian State. Number 9, Chamarius Bomar. He's listed as an athlete. He's also committed to Appalachian State. And then, as I mentioned before, number 13, Cutter Woods, the quarterback, who is going to South Carolina. Just because they have a highly recruited quarterback doesn't mean they don't like to run the ball. They actually run the ball a little more. They have their returning running back, who was a junior last year, Sherrod Richardson. On 103 carries, he averaged 11.1 yards per carry. He had 1,139 yards rushing last year, which led the team. And to add to those rushing yards, he had 16 rushing touchdowns. And to mention Cutter Woods one more time, he had 42 passing touchdowns with only 8 picks last year. Prince Avenue will have their hands full with this team. So if you're on that side near Athens or even Augusta, travel on up to Anderson, South Carolina, and watch these 2 teams play. Okay, for part 2 of the Double Dipper for September 20th, we have the Tryon Bulldogs will host the Robbinsville Black Knights from Robbinsville, North Carolina. For the Black Knights of Robbinsville, they come in with 14 state titles. That's correct, 14, with one run of 5 straight titles. They're predominantly a Russian team, and they lost a ton of their offensive players. They graduated last year, but they have a good bit of their defensive starters coming back. They're currently ranked 4th in the preseason for their Class 1A in North Carolina, but to bring in 14 state titles, I have the years listed here so you can see what they're bringing in to Tryon. Moving over to the Bulldogs of Tryon, they actually had a very tough loss in the quarterfinals against Elbert County last year. They got beat 42-41 in that 1A championship bracket. They are bringing back most of their explosive offensive players, including their quarterback, Cade Smith. They are still mostly a running team, like I've always said. Most high school teams are. But Cade will allow them to open up the pass on occasion where they're not so reliant on the run. They're currently ranked ninth in Class 1A Division II in Georgia, so it'll be a good top 10 matchup between two states. Let's head up to Sam McCain Stadium up in Tryon and watch them take on the Robbinsville Black Knights. For the last game of September on the 27th, time to head down to South Georgia for a matchup between the Pirates of Appling County and the Fitzgerald Purple Hurricanes. The Fitzgerald Purple Hurricanes won a 2A championship back in 2021, their first since 1948. Fitzgerald is moving down to 1A. Also, I couldn't find any stats from last year, so I couldn't really put a lot of information on players or what kind of system they run. But they have a tremendous website that somebody has created to keep up with their team, even though they don't put any stats on it. So I have that listed here. So when you get a chance, go out there and look. It's one of the better home sites, if not the best, that I've seen. The one thing that this site did provide is they have made a trip to the playoffs in 24 straight years, every season of this century so far. So go out to that website and check them out. For the Appling County Pirates, they have never won a state title, but year after year, they always have a solid football team. And man, they have one of the toughest schedules in the state this year. Half of their games are versus top 10 opponents from various classes, even one from Florida. I couldn't find any stats on this team either, but I know from the past I've always seen them have very solid football games, and I wanted to bring a lower class good game that you could go see. For Appling County, you can follow Coach Jordan Mullis on X, and I've left that up on this page. So if you're like me, you would have to head down south to Jimmy Swain Stadium in the lovely city of Baxley and watch a good solid matchup between a ranked 7 Class 1A team versus a ranked 9 2A team. The first games in October will have a haunted light beginning as the Devil goes down to Georgia. I have the Manchester Blue Devils will take on the Bowden Red Devils. Last year, they played in the first game of the regular season. Manchester Blue Devils won 21-20. Then they had a rematch in the championship game for Class 1A Division II. Bowden got the revenge and they won 28-27. 2 games decided by 1 point. Now they're in the same region. The teams may have changed just a little bit, but prepare yourself for an exciting game. Also, in the preseason, Manchester is ranked 1, Bowden is 2. So you could see the region game could end up again being a rematch for the championship. We'll start with the Blue Devils. They only have 1 state title. That was back in 1997. And man, they were 1 point last year from at least tying and going into overtime. Most of their starters are returning. They love to run the football, and their star running backs will be seniors this year. They also have a top defensive lineman, and he had 13 sacks last year. I have them favored to win the championship game this year because of how much talent they're bringing back. And as I mentioned earlier, they have the number 3rd recruit in the state, Justice Terry. He's a defensive lineman, and he is committed to Georgia. Now, info on the Red Devils. Bowden are back-to-back 1A Division champions. They also have titles in 1972 and 1992. Their star quarterback, McGinnis, graduated. They've lost a good bit on offense, so we'll have to see if they're reloading to take a shot at that 3rd straight title. They have a he's kind of listed as a wide receiver, tight end, offensive linebacker. Caden Prothro, he is a junior and he is 6'6". He is highly recruited. He's number 9 in the 2026 class. I've been focusing only on 2025 class. You can follow their coach, Rich Finley, on X, and I have it listed here. Head over to Bowden, Georgia to watch what could be an incredible game. I would like to mention something here, though, and if I was looking at the classifications, they have Tryon, which I mentioned earlier, Bowden and Manchester in the same region. Tryon and Manchester are 3 hours apart. I think Georgia might have reclassified that wrong. I couldn't imagine having the kids travel regionally to play some of these games. Even Bowden and Manchester are about an hour and a half. But anyway, it's just something I wanted to mention. October the 11th will take us to Clinch County as the Panthers take on the Brooks County Trojans. It's a top 10 matchup for Class 1A Division II, and they're also region foes. Brooks County lost in the semifinals last year to Swainsboro 24-17. They did win a championship back in 2021 and 1994, and they're also ranked 4 in the class for the preseason. It was another team. It's been difficult to find some stats on some of these Class 1A teams, but they did have some videos on Max Preps, and I was able to watch a good bit. Looks like they run a West Coast style offense, so they definitely don't mind throwing the ball, more so than some of the other high school teams that I see. Josh McFather takes over the team after their other head coach left. He was the former OC, so I believe he'll continue to sling the ball and run that West Coast style offense. They have a very tough schedule for Class 1A. They're talented enough to go deep in the playoffs. Moving over to the Clinch County Panthers, they are one of the blue bloods of Class 1A. They hold 8 titles ranging from 88 all the way to 2018. They look to continue their 4-decade streak of winning championships. It would be 5 straight decades, which is incredible if they could win a championship between now and 2030. They have their quarterback, Aaron Bryant, returning. He led the team in rushing yards and passing yards. They run like a run option style offense. They actually played Manchester, the Blue Devils that I talked about earlier, very well last year. So Tim Dickerson returns after retiring in 2018 after that last championship. He's coming out of retirement to coach Clinch County again, and he won 5 of those championships in his first stint with Clinch. So let's all head over to Homerville, Georgia, and enjoy 2 powerhouse Class 1A schools battle for their region. We'll remain in the South, maybe travel just a little bit up north to the Georgia National Fair host of Perry, Georgia. The defending champion Panthers will play the Gators of Ware County. Both teams, Ware County and Perry, both have won their first state championships in the past few years. Perry are defending champions, and Ware won their championship in 2022. Now they're region rivals in 4A Region 1. This Region 1 is pretty stacked for 4A. You have Benedictine, Perry, Ware County, and Warner Robins all in the same region. Since 2020, these schools have won 6 state titles in various classes. 6 in 4 years. It's kind of crazy. I mean, at the end of the season, they're all region games. So if you're down south, you're going to be able to enjoy some really good football. There's even another class that has a loaded Region 1. We'll get to that later. But let's go back and look at this region. In the preseason rankings, Perry is number 2, Benedictine's 3, Ware County is 4. So this game's going to be a 2 versus a 4. Now look, this is towards the end of the season. That could change. And then Warner Robins is number 12. 4 of the region teams are 4 of the top 12 teams in that class. We'll go down this rabbit hole a little further. The other 2 remaining schools in this region, New Hampstead and Wayne County, are still both in the top 23. There's only 57 schools in 4A, but all 6 teams are better than half of the other schools. They're going to beat each other up kind of like the SEC does. So this is a pivotal game for this region because how you go into the playoffs, those four seeds, and there's only four seeds open. But just think if Perry only loses, like maybe two games and they're the four seed, watch out when you're looking at the brackets in the playoffs for that region because they could probably beat some of the higher end teams in other regions. Let's have a quick look at both teams. On Ware County, they have a pretty balanced offense. They're bringing back their quarterback and one of their star running backs. Actually, one of their running backs is in the top recruits in the state. He's 129, R.J. Boyd, and he is committed to North Carolina State. They also have another kid at 115, Jamar Bearden. He is a defensive end, and he's currently undecided. He hasn't committed anywhere. And then moving over to the defending champions, Perry. They run a very similar offense to Ware. They are balanced. They tip a little more towards running, but they still have a stacked roster to make another run. It would depend heavily on that senior quarterback that they have. But if you get a chance, check out their coach, Kevin Smith. Not this Kevin Smith, but this one. He is another one of those good coaches that does a lot for community and so forth. It was really fun to watch them win a championship last year. They also have two top tier recruits. At 132, they have Devon Smoot. He is a safety. He's undecided, hadn't picked a school yet. And then you have at 168, Corey Pettigrew. He is a wide receiver going to South Florida. If you're lucky enough to be down in South Georgia, drive over to the Panther Pit and watch Ware County take on Perry. Focus stays on South Georgia. There's such rich history of Southern Georgia football. In 2008, ESPN gave Valdosta their nickname of Titletown USA. Valdosta has 6 national championships, 42 regional championships, and 24 state titles. It's just not the high school of Valdosta anymore. There's so many great schools in that far southern border of Georgia. Not to take away from any other region of Georgia, but what Valdosta has done is truly remarkable. After talking Valdosta up, I didn't even pick one of their games. There are so many, and I was trying to pick and choose and make sure that I kind of get all the classes in. But if you'd like to go see them play, they play Camden County on September the 27th, or Colquitt on October the 4th, or Lowndes on November the 1st. So go down to Titletown and watch the Wildcats play. I have one more focus in South Georgia. So for the October 25th game, I actually have Swainsboro Tigers visiting Savannah Christian Raiders. For Swainsboro, they actually lost the Class 1A Division I championship to Prince Avenue last year. They lost a few key pieces, but they have a junior quarterback, Kason Edenfield, that will still be leading the team. They are primarily a running team. They have several running backs returning that should help maintain that good running game. They also lost a good bit on their defense. Majority of the players graduated that was more of their starters last year. And Swainsboro has one title back in 2000. For Savannah Christian, they lost their championship game too, losing to Cedar Grove 49-28. All of their major offensive players returned this year, which is probably why they're the number 1 seed for the preseason. They're mostly a running team as well, but they will throw it a little more than Swainsboro. They have a very solid defense, and it's probably even going to get better now that they're dropping into 1A. And they have the number 1 prospect in Georgia this year with defensive lineman Elijah Griffin. He has committed to the Dogs to Georgia. And they also have the 51st recruit in Logan Brooking, and he is a tight end committed to Clemson, I should say. And they hold 1 state title, and that was won in 2011. So head over to the beach, go over to Savannah Christian, and watch the number 1 team play the number 18 Swainsboro. Oh, we end with a bang. The last week of the regular season, and it is a doozy. We have 2 defending state champions that have been reclassified into the same class and region. On November the 1st, we have the Coffee Trojans will head over to Thomasville and play the Thomas County Central Yellow Jackets. In one of the games I picked for 2 weeks back from this game, I was talking about Perry, Benedictine, and Ware County. Get a load of this Region 2 5A. You have Coffee, pre-ranked number 3. They're playing Thomas County Central, ranked number 2. Lee County is also in this region, ranked number 4. Northside Warner Robins, ranked number 11. Houston County Bears, ranked number 10. 5 of the 6 teams in this region are in the top 11 in the Class 5A. Only 4 of them get in. It's almost unfair. Definitely one of the toughest regions in the state of Georgia. We could go through and look at all of them. This is definitely one of the toughest for sure. And how important will this game be on that seeding again? How I was talking about which seed they get. And this is a tough class because you got Milton in it as well. Gainesville, Rome, Roswell. Just a loaded class with a ton of talent. Okay, so let's talk about the Trojans of Coffee. They won the 5A championship last year against Creekside by the score of 31-14, but they did lose one of their bruising running backs, Fred Brown. But I expect them to still fight for the region title within this loaded region. The other thing is, I'm not going to put anything on this page for this, but go Google their indoor practice facility. It is college-esque. It is. Moving back to football, they had a stellar defense last year. Their D did not allow more than 18 points all season long, and that was Cartersville scored 18 in the semifinal game against them. They'll need that stout D to make it deep in the playoffs and have a shot at another title. Let's discuss the other defending state champion. Thomas County Central won the Class 6A championship against Woodward Academy by the score of 49-28. Their stud running back graduated as well, but they have an impressive quarterback and plenty of running backs to fill Trey Benton's shoes. Their defense, it is stellar too, just like Coffee. So this game could turn into one of those 17-14, maybe even 14-13. I would expect, with how well their defenses played last year, that this is the kind of game that you would see. They have 6 titles starting from 92, and then of course the one last year in 2023. Here's something that I thought was really cool. They actually have their roster loaded up on College Football 25. CFB 25 came back out this year because of all the new NIL rules, but you can search for TC-Central or the coach's gamertag Christ W0417, and you can download their team to play in college football. I think that is a really cool thing that they did for the kids on that football team. I always end on where to go see the game, so head on out to the Jackets Nest in Thomasville and watch this region game that could decide a lot of stuff leading into that 5A championship bracket. So let's look at all the games one more time. On August 16th, Buford versus Milton. August 17th, Cedar Grove versus Douglas County. August 23rd, Mill Creek versus Norcross. August 30th, Marist versus Woodward Academy. August 31st, Creekside versus DeSoto, Texas. September the 6th, Cartersville versus Calhoun. September the 13th, Gainesville goes to Carrollton. September the 20th, Prince Avenue Christian We'll go over to Westside, South Carolina to play the Rams. Another game for 9:20 would have Robbinsville from North Carolina coming down to play Tryon. On September 27th, we have the Purple Hurricanes of Fitzgerald visiting Appling County. Then October the 4th, we have the Devil matchup with the Manchester Blue Devils versus the Bowden Red Devils. And then on 10/11, we have Brooks County going to Clinch County. October the 18th, we have Ware County visiting Perry. And then on October 25th, Swainsboro is going over to Savannah Christian. And then that last game we just talked about, November the 1st, you have the Coffee Trojans going up against Thomas County Central Yellow Jackets. So which game are you going to go to? I know there's so many. Are you going to go to more one? Let me know which game you might go to, or list the other ones I might have missed. There's so many games. Like I just said, there's so many. These were just the ones I thought would be great to go see and kind of have a good mixture of all the classes. Hey, as always, thank you for listening to Spider Red. Continue to look out. I'm going to talk about one more thing on high school football, a very short little quick video, and then be on the lookout for my preseason top 25 for college football. Thank you again. Later.